Hi everyone, Dr. Victoria Scribo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. It's the 20th of June. It is summer solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's actually very early in the morning. My mother's got me up a few times tonight. I could not get back to sleep. So I got to see the sunrise, yay. On the longest day of the year up here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's going to be a long day, I can tell. But an exciting day. There are a lot of exciting things happening. Of course, the solstice is a very powerful time. It is a turning of the season, a turning of the wheel. It is a time of, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's considered a time of growth when things grow on the vine and such, and then eventually a time of reaping and harvesting. Seeds have been planted in the spring, and now things are starting to grow on the vine. Flowers are coming out, fruits are coming out. It is a time of plenty. In the southern hemisphere, it's more of a time of introspection and introversion, going within, and such. It's a powerful time all on its own. We have an eclipse tomorrow, on the new moon, and that promises to be very powerful. The path of the eclipse is going over Africa and the Near East, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Taiwan. Taiwan especially, like right over Taiwan. I wouldn't be surprised. I think this is going to be a transformational eclipse for China, because it goes over both Taiwan and Hong Kong, two territories that are, we would call them hotspots. We also have, we just recently had a skirmish between China and India, and there were actually soldiers like fighting hand-to-hand combat along the border. I mean, you don't hear about that stuff. 20 soldiers from India died. They're not saying how many soldiers from China, but it would be interesting if that was 22, right? 2020. It's also weird, all this numerology and such. And of course, today is the 20th, June 20th of 2020. Yesterday was Juneteenth. And the President of the United States was going to have his rally on Juneteenth. He decided to have it on the next day, which is today, which is the solstice, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the largest race riot, massacre of black people in American history occurred. So nothing like, oh, let's have a bonfire in the middle of an oil field. That's a good idea, right? Hence is the President of the United States. So we will see, and we'll look at the cards and see what comes up. Now, I am not using tarot cards. I am using an oracle deck, the Illuminated Earth Oracle. It's very different. It's much more intuitive, because it's not like connected to the tarot cards. And of course, I'm reading tarot cards from many different perspectives. So let's see how this comes up. I'm just going to... these are... let's see, these are done by an artist out of Seattle called Claire Mack, and you can contact her, www.claire, C-L-A-I-R-E, Mack, M-A-C-K.com. All right, let's see what's going on. Oh my God. So the first card we get is resistance. Resistance. Can you see that? These cards are so beautiful. I wish I had better lighting so you could really appreciate these. There we go. There we go. We can see that. Resistance. It's interesting. There's the picture here. It's like two cliffs coming together, sort of rubbing up against each other. And in the interim, it looks like there are all these. So what this card says to me is that we're at a time when there is great um, sort of resistance between the forces of the structure of things and the forces of change coming together. And as they come together, we can see these sort of boulders, lots of debris. We see here what looks like lava, the fire of transformation, um, as these two forces, the forces of staying the same and the forces of change, sort of come together. Let's see what's crossing it. It's crossing the resistance. Source energy, source energy. And so this says to me that this is a time when spirit is here to aid us. Source is about returning to a sense of unity. Um, it is we can see that there are connections and webs of light here. So instead of seeing this as a challenge, actually the immediate situation is a challenge with the resistance card, right? What challenges the resistance is our connection to source. So that's good, right? We want to stay connected to source. We want to bring in the energy of peace and understanding. We want to bring in the energy of love. Love is what holds it all together. It's that sort of weak nuclear forces that holds everything together. If we can see density, our experience here, as love, just in a denser energy, like the energy is love, and the vibration slows down and the energy gets denser. Um, Sometimes it's hard to see the love, but the love is still there. The love is still there. Let's see what's at the root. Healing. Healing. So this weekend is a weekend of healing. It's a weekend of, to a certain extent, reckoning. Let's see the past. Renewal. And I think we've been going through a renewal process. Okay. It has been hellish. The last 3 years with Trump. Or four, is it 3.5 years now? But there has been a renewal. There's been a renewal of we could see it in Bernie Sanders' campaign, a renewal of energy towards the working class, a renewal towards a more equal society, a renewal towards those things that we at least professed to believe in America, a renewal of the civil rights movement, which has continued to go on, but it's a continual renewal process. We are recreating ourselves constantly, and I feel like at this point we've come to the place where the healing has to happen, and we have spirit that's going to help us. Okay, see what's in the sky. Okay, we have combustion. Combustion. That's a little scary, right? Um, lighting the spirit within each of us. Now, how that's going to manifest, hard to say, but know that this is a time of revolution. So the revolution isn't going to stop, and the revolution isn't always going to be peaceful. But it doesn't mean that we have to stop holding peace in our hearts. It doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily, spiral out of control unless we let it. And the way that we prevent that is by holding peace in our hearts. It's by holding the space for these demonstrations to happen, holding the space for people's voices to be heard, as much as it may be um, um, there are going to be a number of people at that rally, that Trump rally, that want their voices heard. And perhaps they think that Donald Trump is their voice and he says what they feel and all that stuff. But, and that might be true. That might be true. But his speech, his what he says is not going to be, it's not going to resolve their issues. It's not going to resolve their issues. It's just going to find voice for their issues. And I think we're all finding voice and we're all speaking out for ourselves. And we're all speaking out for our fellow man. This is a time, the North Node's in Gemini, folks. So this is a time to talk. As I say that, my bird is screaming his head off, so he agrees at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure my neighbors do not agree on a Saturday. Immediate future. Okay, we have attachment here. So in the immediate future, which pretty much goes for about a month in this deck, 6 weeks usually when I do this reading like this. We have barnacles here. There's a guy, he's all tied up and he's holding a handful of barnacles. Which says to me that there are some, there's going to be a lot of elbow grease here. There's going to be a lot of effort for us to remove that which has become entrenched and encrusted. And that's also true of us having to deal with the most or the deepest attachment to pain that we have, the deepest attachment to not being free. It's interesting that the Black community has been fighting for their freedom to just breathe, to be free. And on a certain level, they're fighting that fight for all of us, even those of us who have more freedom. Symbolically, right? It's about coming out of the binds. It's about coming out of bondage, right? And so that's what this card talks of. And it's not just bondage because your skin is black. The people at the Trump rally are in bondage as well. They're in bondage to their pain. They're in bondage to the idea or the paradigm that there's something outside of themselves, that there's somebody, that there's a big daddy out there who's going to fix it all. And really, he doesn't have the capacity to barely comb his own hair. I would bet somebody else does that for him. That looks like it's a big deal. And I don't think he does it by himself. So we can't ask somebody to do what we're not willing to do for ourselves. And so if you want to be free, you have to be willing to let go. Untie yourself. Scrape off a few barnacles, as it were. All right. Let's see what else. All right. So the next card I pick is protection. And this is about the need to put protection around those people who are out there, those people who are protesting, those people who are even going to the rally. Our domestic situation, wisdom, that's good. Learning from the past, that's very optimistic. Hopes and fears, this is called transient, the hope that this too shall pass. And it will, and we'll be better for it. And the outcome is responsibility. So it's about being held accountable. That includes Trump. That includes the people at his rally. That includes the Black Lives Matter. That includes the police. That includes you and I. Responsibility is our ability to respond to situations instead of react to situations. And I feel when I see these protests and the protesters out there, I feel like there's that energy of responsiveness, of knowing that if you go in the direction of violence, it's just going to give them more of an excuse to come down and say they were right all along. So it's about taking responsibility for your actions. It's about taking that anger that you feel and channeling it. The combustion. This is the anger you feel. Instead of having it burn down the house, focus it into an intention that's going to make the world a better place. Make your world a better place. Where do you want to put your energy? Railing against forces outside of yourself isn't really going to, there are those who are going to be on the streets and they're going to do it, and that's their part. And there are those who, I wouldn't say are on the sidelines, but don't have the capacity to be out on the streets for whatever reason. Their lives, physically maybe they can't do it, but in their hearts they're with the protesters. Then be with your heart. Be within your heart for those kids out there and those people out there who are trying to make the world a better place. Let's put some real protection around them, but ultimately we have to be responsible for ourselves. Ultimately, we cannot ask Big Daddy to fix things. We have to roll up our sleeves, each one of us, and do our part. And that's really what that last card, responsibility, says to me. So I think that was an interesting reading. During the reading, I was interrupted 3 times for 3 different reasons. That's my life. Constant interruptions. But I hope you got something out of that. I certainly did. I'm really pleased to see that this is at the bottom. This is the root of the reading, the healing card, because that's really what it's all about. This is an opportunity for us to heal. And we are moving into a new paradigm. And we'll get there faster. And we'll get there, I dare say, easier. If we foster love in our hearts and surround those who are out there on the front lines with that love and protection. Have yourself a great day. Like and subscribe. I'll see you again later. Take care.